You're listening to the Crew Book Club podcast, the show that challenges you to change your mindset through hearing about dope books. Thanks for hanging with the crew to get advice, ask questions, and gain knowledge with me, your host, Sade Hill. What up, crew? What's good? It's your girl, Sade, here for another episode. I really want to get out of habit saying it's your girl, Sade. Like, it's your host, Sade. I don't know. Whatever rolls off the tongue. That makes me think about what we're reading. We've been conditioned and primed to say it's your girl or whatever because everybody do it. So I'll think of something. Anyway, I'm gonna need you guys to really be open-minded and access your brain, because this episode gonna get real brainy at parts. So just keep your mind open. Remember, I read the books you should read, so you don't have it because you don't have the time to, or because you like, Sade, I ain't finna read all of that. I know it may be good, but it's just too much words and not enough pictures. Or you're an audible person, but you kind of drain yourself. You kind of draw in and out of audio. So this is why you listen to moi, so I can give you the points. But I'm gonna really need y'all to lock in this episode. Because we're getting into chapter 3 of Are You the Placebo, Making Your Mind Matter? And that's the only chapter we're covering because it's so much really good information about our brain. And if you follow me on Instagram, now I'm on TikTok, our YouTube channel, I posted about how I've been reading this chapter. It really makes me want to study neurology, because if we can understand how our brain works, maybe we can check ourselves a lot better. All right. And this chapter 3 is called The Placebo Effect in the Brain. So we're going to talk about some neurons. So just keep an open mind. And I think this is something very important we need to understand. Okay, I know this is something very important we need to understand. Okay. And of course, we're going to start off with our first, one of my favorite segments of the show. Who gon' check me, boo? God is. He is always checking us. And if anybody going to keep me in check, it's going to be him. Okay? All right. So, let me rewind. Let me give you the 3 topics, because someone let me know, like, they really like hearing the beginning, the 3 topics. We're going to dive into the 3 topics, 3 questions that we're going to attack. Is, are you doing it just to do it, or is there a meaning behind it? The second thing we're going to touch on is, how is your brain processing your life's data? And the third thing we're going to hop on is, what are you declaring when you say, I am? Ooh, so I'm going to get in your business, you're going to get in mine, and we going to become better together, okay? All right. Who gonna check me, boo? God is. He is always checking us. And this check was motivated by the sermon that was preached Sunday by Pastor Petey on Ephesians chapter 6, 18 through 24. And one of the scriptures he referenced was in Acts 20, 19 and 20. And I opened up the book to share that with you. Then God was just like, I want you to share what you already had highlighted in my Bible. And it was Acts 20, chapter 24. And it says, however, I consider my life worth nothing to me. My only aim is to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me. The task of testifying to the good news of God's grace. Listen, the only aim to finish the race and complete the task that the Lord Jesus has given me. Not what I've given myself. Not what you told me, not what you believed in what I can do. I need to go by only the task that God has asked me to complete. And Pastor Sarah preached a message about the weight of the wind, or something with the wind. I can't think of the sermon name exactly because it's just coming to my thought. But she said something in that sermon was like, don't get attached. I think it was this sermon. I listened to so many of her things, and I listened to a bunch of sermons from her, Pastor Madhu, my pastor Tim. So sometimes if you ever catch me making a mistake, it's because I probably research so much and listen that I might be mixing it up, but don't charge me, because a lot of them kind of have the same processes and thoughts and books and things like that, because they actually read from the word, they preach from the word, not from their opinions. Anywho, but it made me think of when she was like, sometimes we could be so attached to the outcome of what we think God has told us, when in actuality, what I got from it, where it could just be the lesson that he needed us to get from that. The outcome wasn't to be ultra, what we consider successful. It's successful to him because we were obedient. And it goes back to another post I did the Bible study on Saturday, which is on our YouTube page and our Instagram, the Crew Book Club. I mentioned the story of Ezekiel and how Ezekiel was told by God to, speak to these Israelites who don't listen to God already. And he said, might not even listen to you, but this is what I'm telling you to do. Even if they don't listen, you're still going to save yourself. And it was just about being obedient to God. It's not about the outcome. It's about you being obedient to Christ. And a lot of times with the pod, I had an expectation of what I wanted this podcast to be. And not saying that it's not going to be there. I just have to be obedient to God to put it out. And like I was telling a friend of mine, it's not about, and I hope you listen to this when it comes to things that God has asked you to do, because I'm a person who struggles with perfectionism, who used to struggle with perfectionism. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's perfect because God asked you to do it. He didn't. And let me tell you, God is in detail, and he will give you detail. But just like the story of Ezekiel, he told Ezekiel what to do first. Ezekiel accepted, and then he gave Ezekiel intricate details on exactly how he's going to do it. So it's just a step in each process to know what God is going to give to you next. It is not saying that you just haven't reached the end yet. And like I've said, there's no such thing as the end until you're gone. Okay? All right. So that was the Who Gon Check Me Boo. God is. I hope that checked you just as much as it checked me. And process that word. The scripture from the Who Gon Check Me, remember, is Acts chapter 20, verse 24. And then you can go read Ezekiel. Let me tell you, it's really, really good. And then go listen to that sermon from Pastor Sarah. I'll put the link to the sermon in the show notes, okay? All right. So let's get into this placebo effect in a brain, child, because this chapter was just like, oh my goodness, this is how my brain is working. So let me get it together, okay? All right. So chapter 3, the placebo effect in the brain. And the first question we're going to get into is, are you doing it just to do it, or is there meaning behind it? Just to understand, he mentioned there are 3 key elements called conditioning, expectation, and meaning. As you'll see, these concepts will seem to work together in orchestrating the placebo response. All right? But I really want to focus on meaning. I'll give you the short aspect of the conditioning and expectation, but I'm really going to deep dive into the meaning. So when it comes to conditioning, the first element is conditioning happens when we associate a past memory with the psychological change. Kind of like, if this happened to me before, I'm going to be on defense because my body is trying to protect itself. My mind is trying to protect itself based off of what happened in my past, right? You become conditioned, right? And so then you go into expectation. The second element comes into play when we have reason to anticipate a different outcome. Like if you taught yourself something new or you read something new and now you have expectations, it's going to be different. So that's one of the elements. Now, the third element I want to deep dive into is assigning meaning. Okay. On page 50, it says the third element to the placebo, meaning, helps it work because when you give an action a new meaning, then we have added intention behind it. In other words, when we learn and understand something new, we put more of our consciousness, purposeful energy into it. And one of the examples he gave me was he had a hotel maids. A study was done with hotel maids who understood how physical exercise they were doing every day just by performing their jobs and the benefits of exercising when it comes to the vacuuming, scrubbing, and mopping. And you're using excessive energy. If you ever turn on your Apple Watch or whatever watch you have and you put it in exercise mode while you're cleaning, you're burning calories, right? But with this particular study, they had a group of nurses who put more intention behind it, realizing that these tasks will be exercising and looked at it that way, than the maids who just saw it as a job. And so the maids who just saw it as a job didn't have significant weight loss or change at all in their body. But the maids who was like, okay, if I'm doing this, I'm intentionally doing, and shift their mindset that this is exercising too, they've seen difference in their body weight and physical appearance. So the intention that you're putting behind it is very important. It makes me think of a conversation I was having with a realtor colleague of mine / friend, sister. I love her. She was, her name is Nicole. We were talking about the energy that we're putting into our business, because as an agent or any entrepreneur or anybody who's corporate, they'll tell you, do this training, do that training, do it this way, do it that way. And it's just like, just because you're doing it doesn't mean that you're going to get the results, because you're not doing it with the right intention. All right. Oh, and it also made me think of, y'all know I got to bring it back to church in the Word of God. It made me think about the sermon about doing something with the good intention of love. Like, love is always the base, because if you're not doing something within love, you just ain't doing it right. He mentioned stand firm in prayer, stand firm in love, and stand firm against the wolves. Oh, that's a whole nother message. But the main thing is stand firm in love. When you're doing something with the intention of love, it makes me think of cooking. Like, I know how to cook, but I don't like to cook. But I can tell the difference from when I put love into a meal than when I'm just throwing something together. You can literally taste the difference. Okay, so think of that. And then on page 51, it states, in other words, if you place more meaning behind a possible experience with a person, place, or thing in your external environment in order to change your internal environment, then you're more likely to be successful at intentionally changing your inner state by thought alone. Listen, in addition, related to your health, because you've been educated about the possible rewards of what you're doing, the clearer the model you're creating in your own mind, and so better you'll be priming your brain and your body to replicate exactly that. Simply said, the more you believe in the cause, the better the effects. It makes me think of real estate too. Girl, putting out open house signs. Ooh, child, it's a lot. Okay, hopping in and out the car, pulling the signs out, da 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 da. But I started to look at it like, okay, it's exercise. If I don't work out today, this child was a workout. And honestly, when I thought that way, and I was thinking this, I came to this conclusion way before I read this book. So this is just telling me that I'm doing things in the right way and it's aligning. Okay. So y'all believe in the cause, the better effect. Meaning does matter. Just because you're doing the things, don't treat it like you're just checking off the box. Okay? Kind of like how people do God. Oh, I read the Bible today. But what was your intention? Did you set your intention when you read that Bible? Did you pray before and ask God, how do I need to process this? Oh, this just made me think of another conversation I was having with my husband. We're talking about meditation before prayer or prayer before meditation. And I was telling him the way I look at it is I pray before I meditate. So when I'm praying to God, I'm asking him, what should I be meditating on? Okay? Because what I don't want to do is be meditating on stuff I want and then going to him and asking for those things. This is like, nah, sis, let God download to you and tell you. So then you can spend more time with him by meditating so he can deliver the tasks and the details of what you need to accomplish. Oh, that's good. I felt that in my spirit, child. Okay, so let's get into that second question. How is your brain processing your life's data? So we're going to get a little science. We're going to get a little geeked up, child. Okay? So put that geek brain on and listen carefully so we can process this information together. On page 56 in the section where it says a quick look at how the brain works. Listen, we used to think of the brain as a computer. Okay? There's much more to the story. Each neuron is its own unique biocomputer with more than 60 megabytes of RAM. It's capable of processing enormous amounts of data, up to 100,000 of functions per second. Y'all, we don't even tap into half of what our brain can do. But our brain is working and storing information, okay? Regardless, all right? Page 57, when jungles of neurons fire in unison to support a new thought, additional chemical or protein is created within the nerve cell and makes its way to the cell center or nucleus where it lands in DNA. This makes me think of when I was pregnant and the emotions I was feeling and the height of that. And now Anaya comes out. She's very fussy. And I remember being very fussy and I was struggling with my thoughts. And I'm wondering that what I was telling my brain has come through the DNA through her. And now I'm having to condition her out of that whiny phase. But anywho, I'm just telling you how deep it is. Okay. Get back to it. The protein then switches on several genes. Since the job of the genes is to make proteins that maintain both the structure and the function of the body, the nerve cell then quickly makes a new protein to create new branches between nerve cells. Okay? So when we repeat thought or the experience enough times, our brain cells make not only stronger connection between each other, but also a greater number of total connections. So as soon as you think a new thought, you become changed neurologically, chemically, and genetically. In fact, you can gain thousands of new connections in a matter of seconds from your novel learning, new ways of thinking, and fresh experiences. This means that by thought alone, you can personally activate new genes right away. It happens by changing your mind. It's mind over matter. But this is new connections in new ways. This is something you have to constantly do. Okay? And that works just the opposite. If you're constantly reliving the same thing, you're going to, what do we talk about in one of the first elements? Condition. You're going to condition yourself to think that way. And you can't get out that cycle, right? So let's focus on new things and new connections to get us through to the next new us. Okay? Now let's listen why. However, unless the original learning experience is repeated over and over again, the number of new connections falls back to its original 1,300 in a matter of 3 weeks. This is why I think 75 hard is so important, why it changed my life. Because 75 days, I think is 11 weeks. Okay? But if I don't keep that same energy, not saying that you got to do the program exactly after you finish, but keep remnants of that program in your life. So that way, within those 3 weeks after the program is over, you don't result back into those same behaviors. Because the first time, it's easy about, I completed it, rah, 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 let me get a drink, celebrate. But you're basically, all that, what you did has gone to waste. So why put all that energy into something to go back and have to start all over again to pull yourself out of that. So we have to constantly be learning new things. That's why it's so important to stay in your word daily. Daily, sis. Okay. So then continuing, this is why it's important for us to continually update, review, and remember our new thoughts, choices, behaviors, habits, beliefs, and experiences if you want them to solidify in our brains. Okay. He gives a lot of diagrams of how this can work. But yeah, real sciencey, child, real sciencey. If sciencey is even a word. Okay, let's go to page 60. It says, because we're still on how is your brain processing your life data. Okay, page 60. Thus, we can say that if we're reminding yourself of who you think you are on a daily basis by reproducing the same mind, you're making your brain fire in the same ways and you're activate the same neural networks for years on end. By the time you reach your mid-30s, child, I'm 37, your brain has organized itself in a very finite signature of automatic programs, and that fixed pattern is called your identity. I really started making significant change in my life around the age of 30, 31. And I know those habits that I started to produce, like get time management, reading these type of books, doing 75 hard, really focus on developing my mindset and my soul and connecting with Christ on another level. Now he want me to go a whole nother level. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, we're not gonna get into that. We just gonna let it fold out. But anywho, it's just like by your mid-30s, this is where when people be like, oh, people set in their ways and they ain't gonna change it. It's not that. It's because they choose not to. You're choosing not to learn something new. It is harder, clearly, neurologically, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. So when someone's like, oh, this is just how I am, this is the way I am, it's science. They've constantly told themselves something over and over and over again. They're refusing to get new information. So it's not that they want to be set in their ways. They don't want to change. So when somebody says that, you should tell them to read chapter 3 alone of You Are the Placebo, Making Your Mind Matter. Seriously, because the brain can change. It scientifically can do it. You just have to choose to do it. So sis, I'm asking you what choice you gonna make. I'm just saying. Okay, so let's go into page 61, still addressing the same question. Okay, so it says, so our goal then needs to be thinking outside the box to make the brain fire in new ways. That's what's having an open mind means, because whenever you make your brain work differently, you're literally changing your mind. So we're just going to end there for answering how is your brain processing your life data. I thought that was really, really profound, because if we know how our brain works, then we can check ourselves. I'm just saying, you can check your brain, check your thoughts, sis. All right. So the third point that I want to get into is, what are you declaring when you say I am? So page 74, let's hop on over. It says, yeah, this makes me think, I'm going to just read it. So imagine it talks about like having a bad day, and as you fired and wired the circuits in your brain, and you have this certain experience, you've created it, your brain has processed it, you've had this bad experience at work, outside of home, right? You know how we all have those days at work, and then we come home and then we talk about it with our spouse. All right. So it says, once you've arrived home, you've told your partner, your friends, and maybe even your mother about the events of today. As you describe the trauma and grave detail, you are working yourself into an emotional froth. As you also relive the emotions of that incident, you chemically condition your body to the day's past events. Your psychological trains your body to become your personal history, subconsciously, unconsciously, and automatically. So it made me think, how much trauma or how much of every situation do I need to come home and spread? I'm just saying. So I was thinking of practicing, not thinking. I want to practice once I'm home, let me leave that at the door. Okay, let me set that boundary of when I come home, no matter what day I had, I'm gonna pray about it, leave it to God, and walk into this house and leave it alone. One, so it won't spread, and two, I won't be having any emotional froth and reworking myself up about events. Cause I have this thing. I have a friend of mine who I call, who I feel like I can only talk to about certain things when it comes to real estate. But now I'm realizing, like, maybe that's reliving the trauma and having me think one way, and then I'm constantly bringing it back up instead of dead in the situation, leaving it to Christ and moving on, just moving on. Okay. So then it says, every time you remember the event turn into months and even years, it becomes a prolonged emotional reaction. It's like you're just prolonging your healing. I mean, come on. So when addressing what are you declaring when you say I am, it goes to whenever you say I am, what you are declaring is that your mind and body are aligned to the future, or that your thoughts and feelings are one with your destiny. You're reinforcing a memorized state of being. So that, oh, I'm so annoyed with these people. Oh, I can't stand these people. Oh, my anxiety, my stress. Oh, I am stressed out. Like, check those words, because all you're doing is telling your body your future. I am. You're claiming it. I've taught you this before. There's a difference on claiming it, and I think it was, oh, I can't think of it right on point. Oh, it's a difference between claiming something and dealing with something. I am dealing with my anxiety. That means I'm putting an action behind it to dead it. So let's deal with our stresses. Let's deal with our anxiety. Let's deal with those internal issues that we're having so we can move forward and claim a different future. Okay? So, like in the beginning of the episode when I was like, I am what did I say I am? A perfectionist. I can't even think of it. That's God telling me you don't even need to say it, sis. How I'm saying I'm a perfectionist? No. I used to be a perfectionist. I used to have anxiety. So, you know what I'm saying? So reiterate, I used to couldn't do this, but I can now, or I'm doing it now. And so I love that. It also says if you keep doing that, when you reclaim those negative thoughts, it's like you're choosing to be defined by your own limitations. So let's stop limiting ourselves. So it says, to close out the question of what are you declaring when you say I am, in order to change your current state of being, you'd have to be greater than these three elements. Listen. Your body, your environment, and time. Okay? You have control over all three of those. Your body, what you feed your body, how you treat your body, your fitness. Like, you can control that. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm doing fitness, it's not that I love working out. I love hiking. I love biking. Do I like going to the gym? No, I don't even go to the gym no more. I've learned how to utilize the things that I have at home. But I can control those things, and I like how my body feels and looks when it's in shape. And I feel more confident. We're not gonna sit here. See, this is where we need to get real with ourselves. Yeah, I understand if you're whatever. Let me not say that. I'm gonna say this. We have to keep it real. We're real with ourselves. We love how we look after we've done the work, not during. It's the after. I know I love when my stomach snatched, and when my clothes look right, when my jeans that I like fit the way I want them to fit. It is what it is. There's a level of you're more confident. let's not go lie now, because as soon as you get that flat belly, you gonna want to wear that crop top. I'm just saying, you gonna want to wear that bathing suit that you thought was ugly on her, but now that you can fit into it, it's cute. Let's just keep it real, okay? Your environment, you can control your environment. I was listening to the Breakfast Club, and they was talking, so she tired of her job, and Charlamagne was like, okay, leave. You can leave. You just don't want to leave because you're trained. You've been conditioned to your comfort. I'm talking to myself, child. Okay. Another thing is time. You might not be the orchestrator of time, but you can control what you put your time in. I've been having to retrain myself constantly when it comes to social media. Me and social media have a love-hate relationship, okay? Sometimes I'd be like, oh, gosh, I just want to get off and get away. But then God be like, yeah, but you use it for good and for purpose. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But then it's like, okay, well, let's just leave the phone on the charger downstairs. So when you go upstairs, when you have the urge to want to roll over 3 o'clock in the morning because you up, don't pick up the phone and stroll, child. Take that moment to have peace and quiet. Stare at the window for all I care. But do not pick up that phone and stroll. Talk to Jesus or something. Okay, but you have control of your body, your environment, and your time. And that is going to help change your mind. All right? So this was so good. I wanted to give you guys some action steps, but I feel like there was a lot deep dived into that. If you follow me on Instagram, social media, I can share the action steps there. Or actually, we can come back next week for that. Let's see. It was on page 64 through 65. And it's basically about crossing the river, change what you do in between your old self and your new self, and taking the proper steps. But I'm going to just leave you with this quote. It says, most of us have been conditioned to run from the unknown. So now we have to learn to become comfortable in the void or the unknown instead of fearing it. That's so good. So embrace the unknown and the void, because you know you're getting away from what you're familiar with into the unfamiliar, unpredictable future that God has planned for you. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Crew Book Club podcast. I hope you had a great time and you got a lot of nuggets, because I know I checked myself while I was checking you. All right. I'll see y'all here next week here at the Crew Book Club podcast. Want to be a part of the crew? Hit that follow button so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I would appreciate you showing crew love by rating the show on iTunes and Spotify. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share and tell a friend so your whole crew can be growing with you. Let me be the first to tell you, welcome to the crew.